The time is just gone 8:44 a.m. as we continue this morning, and election time in Zimbabwe approaching, and many Zimbabweans obviously hoping for a peaceful, a free, and a fair 2023 elections. And there are already reports, sadly, of political violence allegedly increasing. And we are now joined by a political commentator who is based in Zimbabwe, Peter Gift Mutasa. Peter, good morning to you. Thank you for your time and welcome to the show.
Good morning, my brother. How are you? And thank you for inviting me to the show.
Yes, we're doing very well. And, of interest to us in South Africa is our neighbors, Zimbabwe. And we have been following developments in Zimbabwe for years and years and years. From the time Zimbabwe had gained independence. And at that point in time, we always said that, Zimbabwe is independent and South Africa will follow suit. Now, election time once again. And we know of past elections, the Mugabe era, obviously, and now that is over. Has the situation actually changed in Zimbabwe since the demise of Robert Mugabe, and also looking at where the country is politically and especially at election time?
Yeah, the environment has changed, but sadly for the worse. It has gone from bad to worse. We were crying under Mugabe because of repression. We are seeing a state under Emmerson Mnangagwa, the current president, moving towards an entrenched military dictatorship. We were under a military dictatorship during Mugabe, but at least it had some modicum of civilian rule. The military was clearly hiding behind the constitution, hiding behind the civilian executive. But what we are seeing now is that there is clearly a de facto martial law in place. The regime has suspended the constitution, and all constitutional rights, as you know them, have been suspended. So citizens in Zimbabwe are just like what South Africans were under apartheid. You cannot exercise freedom of expression freely without harm. You also cannot exercise freedom of association and freedom of assembly. Even if you congregate a few people, you are arrested. Currently, there are 26 Citizen Coalition for Change, the main opposition party, leaders and activists who are in prison. What is their crime? They gathered at one of the houses of their leaders to discuss issues that we do not know, but to discuss their own personal issues and party political agenda. And the police barged into that home, beat everyone, not just the political activists, but also they beat the lawyer who had come to the police station to represent those people. And the lawyer is in hospital as we speak. So we are seeing things that we never imagined will happen after Mugabe. And they've been doing much worse than what we were facing during Mugabe. So we have digressed. We have gone back to colonial era state repressive measures. They are also crafting different legislation that is seeking to disenfranchise voters and also to muzzle dissent. Each sector is facing a specific bill in parliament whose agenda, the main objective is to stifle dissent and to muzzle freedom of expression, association, and assembly. Labor, including nurses, recently there's been a new legislation for health service sector, which will now criminalize the strike action by doctors, nurses, and health services health services workers, and they are liable to 6 months in prison. The private voluntary organizations are not spared. The new bill has passed parliament. The Private Voluntary Organization Amendment Bill is waiting for presidential assent. If it comes in place, some organizations are going to be banned, like what ANC and other organizations went through during apartheid. We think many organizations that defend people's rights, political organizations that entrench and defend democracy and constitution are going to be banned. So this is a sad situation. But on top of that, the regime has failed, is mismanaged the economy. It has failed to manage the economy. We now have the highest inflation in the world at 255%, the highest interest rates in the world at 200%. You can no longer borrow, productive sectors cannot borrow because they can't pay back at 200%. And the majority of our people are living in abject poverty. So we are much worse than we were under Mugabe. We are similar to what we experienced during colonial rule.
Yes, Peter. In fact, it's very, very concerning. It's very, very sad, the picture that you have just painted. Now, against all these issues that have been playing out, against the repression, against all these challenges that the country is actually faced, and I must say that these are dire challenges with dire consequences for the people of Zimbabwe. The hope that the elections would be free and fair. I mean, is there really hope that these elections will be conducted freely and fairly?
In 1979, at the Lancaster House Conference, one of the eminent revolutionaries during that time in Zimbabwe who were fighting against colonialism, Edison Zobo, announced that elections that were pending in 1980 in Zimbabwe were rigged in advance and they should be condemned in advance. I think that situation is what is now we are now facing again, unfortunately, 42 years after independence. The Zimbabwe 2023 elections have been rigged in advance, and as civil society, as political activists, we must condemn them in advance. There's no hope for free, fair, and credible elections anymore. For starters, the institution that is mandated to run the electoral processes, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, ZEC, has staffed itself with commissioners that are related to the ruling party leaders. For example, there is one Abigail Mohadi, who is a daughter to ZANU-PF vice president. We also have one Kudzai Shawa, who is related to the foreign affairs minister. We have Catherine Mpofu, who is related to ZANU-PF Secretary for Administration, Obed Mpofu. We also have Jasper Mangwana, who is related to a ZANU-PF functionary and Politburo member, Paul Mangwana. So we are going to have elections being run by very close relatives, daughters, cousins, brothers of one of the main contestants, ZANU-PF. So from just that on, you can see that we have breached all corporate governance. We've all breached all constitutional norms that are supposed to guarantee free and fair elections. But not just that. The state has also captured, the ruling party has also captured all the state institutions. The Zimbabwe Republic Police, it is clearly discharging its mandate in a partisan manner. We have many people that have been arrested from the opposition and civil society. And we've got many people from the ruling party who have even threatened death of the main opposition party leader, Nelson Chamisa, but they are not arrested. We have an MP who is the chairperson for the Citizen Coalition for Change, the main opposition, who has been in pre-trial detention for now almost 7 months without any trial. And this we last had and have had this long back in colonial rule and immediately after independence when there was a genocide against the Ndebele people. So we are worse than what we were during Mugabe in all regards. If you look at the traditional leadership They are supposed to discharge their mandate in terms of the constitution without bias, and they are supposed to be an apolitical institution that serves all. But they are being used to threaten and intimidate citizens who hold a different political view from the establishment. You go to the judiciary itself, a judiciary that is worth its salt has gone for more than 7 months caging someone without trial and regularly denying him bail, even where conditions and circumstances have changed that should ordinarily lead to the job seeker getting his bail. The judiciary has been clearly biased and clearly operating under the wings of the executive and the main ruling party. We also have violence. Violence has heightened and deepened. The ruling party is threatening everyone, it's threatening anyone who poses a risk to its re-election. In August 2022, the Zimbabwe Peace Project report indicated that there were 3,321 victims of political violence in August 2022, out of 257 human rights violations. And 89% of them were from Triple C, the Citizens Coalition for Change, the opposition. 51% were perpetrated by ZANU-PF, the main ruling party. And sadly, 28% were perpetrated by the Zimbabwe Republic Police against citizens who are seeking protection from the police. So there's been systematic campaigns by ZANU-PF supporters and threats and intimidation against opposition. And we are expecting a bloody election that we have never witnessed before. We had our own ugly situations in 2007, 2008 elections and electoral campaign period. But we think that will be dwarfed. That will be the coming elections will be much worse in terms of violence, in terms of violence against citizens. We are staring a genocide of some sort unless the international community comes in and unless the people around us, South Africa, SADC, Botswana, Zambia, Namibia, comes in with preventive diplomacy and ensure that ZANU-PF is not going to kill citizens the way we are seeing it coming on.
Well, Peter, it certainly sounds very, very ominous in terms of what you have just described, and we will be watching this space. And I'm sure that from time to time we will connect with you. Unfortunately, time has been of the essence. There's just so much more that I would like to engage you with, but hopefully, on a future discussion, we can address and talk about some of these issues. But for now, we thank you for taking time out and being part of this discussion this morning on Salam Media. All the best to you, and we pray for your safety. We pray for the well-being of the people of Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting us. And please continue sending the message. We don't want the international community, SADC, AU, UN to come to count body bags when people have already died. So media plays a big role. Please send the message, the SOS message. We are still in danger in Zimbabwe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peter Gifta Mutasa with us this morning, a political commentator based in Zimbabwe. At the time, it's just gone 8:58. We've got Imtiaz Sayed standing by eThekwini Secure.